Okay, we're just connecting. Just give people a chance to come on there. Welcome to those just joining. I'm just going to give people a chance to connect, and then we'll make a start. Okay. Okay. So thank you everybody for coming along. We're on the session 7 over here on the topic of resilience amidst rising tides. Just a very brief housekeeping note before we start. Again, please, we encourage use of the chat and the Q&A throughout, and there'll be the questions will be answered towards the end. But it would be great to hear from you all, see where you're watching in from. So please do use the chat for that purpose. But I will hand over to yourself, Mariah, and the floor is yours.
All right. Hello, Algeta, Malalele, Kia orana, talofa, bonjour, whakalofa atu, kasilele, Iorana Bulavinaka, and welcome to this session on resilience amidst rising tides, where we focus our attention on the local leadership from the front lines of climate change through the work of Oxfam in the Pacific and Shifting the Power Coalition. My name is Maraya Vaktalai Tambunakawai. I'm the Gender Partnership Coordinator within the Shifting Power, Shifting Voice program within Oxfam in the Pacific. I will be your moderator for this afternoon. This session is co-convened by Oxfam in the Pacific and through the Pacific Climate Change Collaboration Influencing and Learning Project, which is PACSIL in short, and the Shifting Power Coalition. So welcome to those that are joining us recently online. If I may, just to give a brief on with Oxfam in the Pacific. Oxfam in the Pacific Oxfam is a worldwide development organization that mobilizes the power of people against poverty. In the Pacific, Oxfam works with partners to ensure that Pacific Islander women and men, specifically those that are poor, marginalized, or excluded, are leading and shaping their development, and that their voices are heard and acted on by those in power. The PACSIL project, in its phase 2, works with 5 partners, specifically with Climate Action Networks in Vanuatu, VCAN for short, Small Solomon Islands, CCAN for short, Tuvalu Action Network, and the Kiribati Action Network, and the Regional Pacific Climate Action Network. The Shifting Power Coalition brings together 13 partners across 7 Pacific Island Forum countries, working to provide a women-led platform for diverse women to learn from each other about gender-responsive, disability-inclusive humanitarian action. Together, the coalition is demonstrating a feminist, movement-led approach to drive collective efforts to build on women's local and traditional knowledge, technical expertise, and address the underlying causes of gender equality by ensuring national efforts are inclusive, gender responsive, and reflect the needs of the whole community. This is critical for effective and equitable policy of resilient communities. For those of you that have joined us, welcome to this session. The program and the outline for this session will include 2 videos that will be displayed very shortly, and we have 3 speakers with us this afternoon, then followed by question and answer that we are setting aside 10 minutes for at the end of the speakers. After the speakers have presented, we will allow 10 minutes at least for question and answer. However, if you do have questions in between, feel free to use the chat box where the host and panelists are able to access your questions, and I will be able to verbalize and read out your questions where the appropriate speaker or relevant speaker will respond to your questions. Without further ado, we will begin with the short video produced by Oxfam through Pacific Climate Change Collaboration Influencing and Learning Project, PACSIL, with its partner, the Vanuatu Climate Action Network, and Santo Sunset Environmental Network in West Coast Santo. The video was captured in Molpoe Village, Santo in Vanuatu, illustrating the long-term effect of climate change resulted in considerable economic and non-economic loss and damage in disaster-prone island countries and communities. Ironically, these people least responsible for climate change are being impacted the most. Yet, through their local initiative and efforts, they sought to build their resilience. Just have the sound.
Yeah, we're not getting the audio through there. When you shared your screen, did you press to share your sound as well?
Hi, Shabella. You can just there's no sound coming through at the moment.
Shabella, you may need to reshare your screen and tick the box that says share sound. It'll be at the bottom left of the options when you press share screen. You're muted there, Mariah.
All right. Okay. All right.
There we go. That's better. Thank you.
Six o'clock afternoon, something a strike. Translate the full tone.
Mi posta anta por sing one volcano, one mi posta por sing one boom.
Time fire up, time full town, like Ronald Paul.
Crony fly quanta full town sim san pisi kam taplo mi bala. Every kokona say ilu ko si margin. I pen everyone win no crown way program. I mean full town ni me all kokona si pen everyone wood on tree only move also ma quick.
All mama what all picking ni early ron. Narside town, all mama what all picking ni early ron.
Time where people are in full town, tandai pairap. Mi harem hatlo mi porok mi lelo gutlo san pislo we mi karai. Mista karai mi no karai from when mi karai from all pupuplo mi. With them all people me from me cry with them all keta. Hatlo mi cry from never me look want something or say it happen. Never me look.
Mi fly lusum tu bari kakao, mo plantation block coconut. Kinti mi fly tu crown mi PRM, kareniam, sandalwood, mo same time tu karentaro. Karentaro mi fly lusum.
Some home house lo some lo mi bala I crony perem.
Water source tu mi fly cat mi lose, mi damage. Naya what I try mo ino sabi come back.
Before I come pupuplo mi balay talem say what up lo you me never by sabi try. From him come out lo spring water no. The time we landslide him come out, iperem hit lo water. Make him say mi balay hard lo place and lo kasem water.
Emi became say fish no mo kataone. From crown so what I perem ko upside tu masih. time before me like live will seem like normal kutu mo stable seem like happy. You got all cacao stable, coconut cacao stable. The time landslide they taking place. Me like stable one time when me like sorry too much lo every something, me like poor lo every something now.
Naya mi ulay stop na mulse mi ulay. No sabe na o ba mi ulay ene money also one pe mi ulay feel se mi ulay na mukatuan place flow income mo mi ulay mas start pa ken blow work mi ulay mas work no mo na suppose mi ulay that place flow plan mo kakao ba ken o coconut kami ulay mas plan baken pe pahemi tek plan te iya belum ulay sa kat al protocol siya. I think him na.
Kasem sani taron mi belai no kakai. Mi belai move lo katem town ol kokonas. Make em place blow house. Mi kamantap mi sili blow crown. Time mi stop kilinap long way. Ting belum mi tahun hat belum mi tahun promosem tahun mi belai kilinim kut ol manolika moliluk se place ya mi kut ikut. The time mi stop kilinap lo place ya sometime mi walk with them cry. Mi walk with them cry for mi hat lo you make em ni wala place mbak ke mi hat.
Molboy village mi kasi man big fala loss and damage lo community. Out lo Santo Island, mi the biggest landslide where mi fall down. Place ya mi no kat road plot track, no kat bank, ikat one airport pe mi bin closed down. You mi no kat mini hospital, ino kat one secondary school where you ikasem iya 13. And Santo Sunset Environment Network where mi respond lo place mi vulai make assessment kibim report iko ino kat one respond. After tip iko tanol siya mi 20 mita tip. Santo Sunset Environment Network kami make assessment finish ikam pak ikim relief especially lo site lo tool blo make house.
Sunset ikam help me fla with every something with me fla ni team lo one household. Hem kim hama hem kim meal lo we ana mi fla look se mi fla sabe a move lo make one house one temporary house lo mi fla relocate.
Mi klatu mas yellow sunset in network environment lo mi pala mi making peak pala work too much. All tool water and we keep him planting something.
Santo Sunset mi stapa work with them 42 community lo western side to Santo from place long way. I had too much block of money reaching. That is why mi pala set them up local NGO lo mi pala lo. Sta help them all people lo mi pala lo. Areas lo mi pala.
Pues you karempot, you pempot, loko kasembun buku, hemi 4,000, 5,000. Pot lo you travel ko lo clinic lo un buku. Mi first implanted challenge wete mol pupu lo mi well iponem pepe lo place ya. Sometimes mi hatu mas loko mi sta lokatem no mo lo place ya. Every pupu lo mi lokatem mol geta lo place ya. Mi wan mama mi lokatem mol geta no mo lo house.
Mi sta bright little bit yet, mi thought little bit all future all beginning.
Time plol pupu mi bali stop kut mbakeken. Suppose landslide in oka same place ya.
Crown am still come down. So lo place kasem titi pa ol bikin ni plumi wala suppose oli harem tantai fire up bali masron. Ol stop think about sound blow landslide to fire up. Lo pilih plumi wala. Well, all valali talk about plumi say, and we place plumi the only place where we should move him, amen. give me stop the place I was there. Might one day, suppose you happen say crown come down, but you will move back again. We stop move also.
All right. Next, we'll head straight into our next video from Shifting the Power Coalition. Just bear with me.
Let us tell you all about how Pacific women are shifting the power,
driving our women's leadership and rights. We all know that women can do the job, right?
For disaster management, for climate justice, humanitarian action, yeah, you know we got this.
Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Vanuatu, Bougainville, but must be and our Aussie sisters too.
We are diverse in age, expertise, and ability. There is no need to question our capability.
And don't forget climate justice for all. That's right. Climate justice for all. We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery. We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery.
Across the Pacific, we all live it. Climate change is real because we all feel it.
Droughts, cyclones, sea levels rising. That is why we work for just climate action.
Organize, strategize, and innovate. Redesign the table before it's too late.
Planning relocation, response, and recovery. Disability inclusion and local action.
Yeah, we hear the call from near and far.
For funds, resources for data collection. For safe and responsive rapid assessment.
For transport to organizing. So our women are able to have a voice from the mat to the policy table.
It's every woman's right, from her safety to her dignity. Because together we can learn about responsibility. We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery. We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery.
Creating safe spaces, that's what we do. Documenting the courage of all the women who
are the first responders with a recommendation for inclusion, security, resource mobilization,
women-led community-based protection, disaster management, humanitarian action.
We are shifting the power, that is what we do.
From across the Pacific, yo, let's all pay homage. Recognize and value our traditional knowledge.
Women's leadership and rights we place in the center of disaster management and humanitarian action. And don't forget climate justice for all. We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery. We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery.
Disaster management, humanitarian and climate action have traditionally been controlled by male-dominated national and international bodies, leaving little space for local women to ensure our rights, disability, and LGBT inclusion are prioritized and resourced. But this is changing with the work of the regional Shifting the Power Coalition. Since 2016, we are bringing together the expertise and experiences of diverse women, including young women and women with disabilities, leading local action on climate change, disaster management, and humanitarian action, including COVID-19. Spanning a network of more than 100,000 grassroots, intergenerational, and inclusive movements in 7 Pacific Island Forum countries, we are the only women-led feminist alliance linking women peace builders, community activists, human rights defenders, and humanitarian experts sharing a transformative feminist vision for resilient and inclusive communities. The coalition supports collective learning, and at times of crisis, we mobilize resources to reach women to organize, design, deliver, and communicate what works for diverse women in their local communities. The Shifting the Power Coalition will continue to drive women's rights, disability, and LGBT inclusion by supporting Pacific Island women to lead in disaster response and recovery, climate justice, and humanitarian action.
We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery. We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery. We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery. We are shifting the power for participation. We are shifting the power for protection. We are shifting the power for inclusive relief. We are shifting the power for recovery.
Whole lot of information from both the videos that we've watched from there, ladies and gentlemen. We'll now move on to the next part of our program, which will head straight into the speakers, which I'll be introducing shortly. Just a note to all the speakers. We have 3 speakers today. And there's 2 speakers coming on live, and a 3rd speaker is a pre-recorded version that we'll all get to hear at the end, towards the end of our panel session. So our first speaker this afternoon is Mr. Alan Taman. Mr. Alan Taman is the chairperson of Santo Sunset Environment Network, an indigenous network of community of environmental champions working together for the protection of biodiversity, sustainable development, customary governance, gender justice, and climate disaster resilience within the Santo mountain chain, key biodiversity area of the western coastline of the island of Espiritu Santo in Vanuatu. And they are also members of the Vanuatu Climate Action Network, through which Oxfam Vaccine Project is working. Over to you, Mr. Alan Taman, and welcome. Seems like Mr. Alan Taman bit of connectivity issues at the moment. Perhaps once he come online again, connect online, and then we keep the state forever. And we'll head now. We'll head up now to our second speaker. To Ms. Elena Kelly. Ms. Elena Kelly is a young woman with disability, desk officer for Disability Women Empowerment Association, an affiliate under the People with Disability Solomon Islands, a network member of the Solomon Islands Action Network, through which Oxfam Regional Vaccine Project is partnering. Ms. Elena Kelly, over to you.
Hello? Can I?
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, Sikan, for this opportunity to have us say our experience as a disability women in climate change. First of all, I think Helen is coming on. So, I've been working with women and girls with disability as a volunteer for quite long, and now as a desk official. Disability is one of a very important people, and there's always a barriers that people with disability face, especially for women and girls with disability. In the Solomon Islands, from the context of Solomon Islands, we have no accessibility for people with disability. There is no space in service provided, and there is no accessible venue for person with disability to able to share their views in their needs and what really matters for them. Since the Organization for People with Disability has formed, we tried so much of our best to share what is the needs of patients with disability. And we have also many affiliates in, and Women and Girls with Disability is one of the affiliates for the Person with Disability organization. Our work is to empower women and girls with disability economically, physically, and also to help them know their rights and responsibility in these climate crisis situations. We have a lot of women in our rural areas and girls, and we have customs and cultures that also look more on women for the responsibility. Women have to do work, housework, women have to do gardening, and for women with disability, it is quite challenging since they already have barriers from their disability or their impairments. And to take on the roles for the culture, it is very difficult for them. And now, through our work, we empower them with economic, how can they be self-independent without other support, without depending on others to help them. We provide trainings from other farmers. We provide capacity building trainings to help them see their ability to help others know that these women can do something even if they have disabilities. So we have a lot of problems from the disasters. We have disasters on, would say COVID-19. We have flash flooding in 2015, maybe, yeah. And there are a lot of challenges for women and girls with disability in accessing service, in accessing work, employments. So there is so many challenges because of the accessibility in the venues, accessibility in services. There are a lot of women left out. There are a lot of women being discriminated. There are a lot of women have no access to health services. And there are a lot of them who are jobless. And there are climate changes coming in, and there is no spaces from lands. There is no spaces in villages where they relocated if there is a disaster or climate change crisis happens. And from that, women with disability have more challenges in finding water, in finding space that they can provide for themselves or their families with food or with other important things that could support them in their lives. It is very difficult. And since most of our disability women have no, they don't attend education because of the disability and the barriers the education service has. There is no service, education service in the Solomon Islands that provide accessibility for women or people with disability to access education and to further help them in finding jobs or employment in the services. So since then, there is lack of services that or employment that would employ those people because of their illiterate situation. And from that, give them more barriers to lessen them in participating in the services provided in the Solomon Island, which give them more challenge in providing for them or their families, or in finding services in health services to just look after their health, or knowing what is their health is, what their right is in any other service. They are left out so much. So we are here to advocate for them and building their ability, showing others that these people have the ability to do something. They can do it in different ways rather than what we expected from them. So we are making more trainings. We have a training with other local service providers, local NGOs and other facilitating groups providing service trainings to help us develop our ability, our skills, so that we can work or provide products that we sell to the market and income just to support our families or support ourselves during any climate change disaster or any disaster that happens. So we are able enough to network with Oxfam, who has provided us with support, and we run a project called Be Home. It was Be Home stands for Beautify Our Homes for Money. So we're trying to build a project in farming honey inside our villages or in our own rural areas, in our own home, without going further or going out where it's not accessible for us as a person with disability or women with disability. We provide a small farm inside our homes, and in that we also beautify our homes, look more beautiful and more healthier. And from that we could sell it to the local market and can earn income just to support us. That facilitate us with how to do marketings, how to provide product, that quality product where others or customers like and meet the needs of customers. And also with that, we have a lot of support around, and we are glad that Oxfam has helping us so much in that to support women and girls with disability, not only in the Solomon Islands, but around the Pacific for more inclusion. And finally, I have a key messages here where I'd like to read it through for us. First one is an inclusive resilience in climate change for persons with disability. A second, calling on developed countries to fulfill their commitment to the 1 billion pledge. This will head to inclusive resilience for persons with disability. Second to the last, high emit countries must reduce their carbon dioxide emission as implicated social issues to persons with disability. In this will further enhance the existing barriers. And for the last, we need the political will of high emitting countries to reduce their emission. And that is all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elena Kelly. There we have it, Ms. Elena Kelly, sharing the experiences of climate impacts to women and girls with disabilities and how their work has supported the different types of impairments and building their resilience through their project work. And of course, you've heard the examples and the barriers in accessing basic services such as and resources, even for water, food security, and even employment opportunities. Next, we do have Mr. Alan Taman, who is able to join us now. Thank you, Mr. Alan Taman. I'll just do another introduction for Mr. Alan Taman. Mr. Alantaman is the chairperson and indigenous for Santo and Sunset Environmental Network, which is an indigenous network of community of environmental champions working together for the protection of biodiversity, sustainable development, customary governance, gender justice, and climate disaster resilience within the Santo Mountain chain key biodiversity area western coastline of the island of Espiritu Santo in Vanuatu. And they are also members of the Vanuatu Climate Action Network, through which Oxfam Paxton project is working. Over to you, Mr. Alan Tama.
Okay, thank you. Yes, before I say something about Santo Sunset Environment Work, firstly, I apologize for a small technical problem that we have. And then I cannot come like a first speaker. And now we, already solved that problem. Yes, Santo Sunset Environment Network located in the country, Vanuatu, and on the island of Santo, on the western part of Santo. Santo Sunset Environment Network, we covered two local area council with 5,000 people plus, and it's quite remote. As we locate in one of the quite remote area that we have no facial road, no electricity, no mini hospitals, and no airport that operates now. We travel to one of the smallest town in, number 2 town we call in Vanuatu, called Lucanville town. By speedboat, and then we travel 6 to 10 hours to look to the town. We have no bank, and it's quite remote, and it's so challenging to our work. Anyways, our network, Santo Sunset Environment Network, is the big governing system, and we are working with some of the stakeholders that we have Santo Sunset Women's Environment Network. We work with Santo Sunset Youth Network, Santo Sunset Rangers Network, both female and male ranger. And then we work with the disabilities, as our network is an inclusive network that we work with everyone. We work together with the 42 other areas. So Santo Sunset Women's Environment Network, they focus on the women, or they take lead on some of our projects to empower the women, or to take train the women to become a leader, to lead some of the projects to implement with the women. So yes, if you have seen in the video, they do many projects as lead by them. They the women, they set up the city triple C, called in Vanuatu, as we call Community Disaster Climate Change Committee, to that committee in the village to like the disaster committee in the village to do some adaptation or anything about the disaster. They train up the women how to do the reporting to the government about the disaster. And one of the real example is in the TC twin cyclone, on the TC Judy and Kevin that strike Vanuatu, the woman take lead, and they assist the city triple C in all the communities, 42 communities, to do the assessment and they report to the government. And like you seen in the video, the women take lead to assist the disaster that had damaged one of the villages. Yeah, we all seen called Molboy village. they report to the government, but yet because the women, they have the warehouse that they store some of the relief in place. And then when the government have tried to finalize their papers and all things, but the women, they go and they after they take the assessment and they find out what the communities need, and then they come to the warehouse and took all of the materials, the tools that communities needs, and they give to them. So women's under Santos Sunset Environment Network, Santos Sunset Women's Environment Network is the most effective, or it's now doing many of the project or activity in place. That they do activity for everyone, but they lead by the women. And out of the 42 villages, they have one committee of city triple C, and out of 42 villages, there are 15 community. The city is like the chair lady of the committee is a woman. So they train people, or they train women how to do sustainable business, as they train them to weave to the standard of export, and they train them how to process vegetable oil from the coconut, and they train them how to process soap, just like to empower the women, as women can do something out from their garden to sustain them with food and also the money. So yes, like if I can say now say that women in our area in Western Santo, like some of our culture say that men every time is like they must go first and then women comes, but now women are doing more projects, and people are seeing that women do something. Women can do something. So now at our area that we are working on, it is like it's gender now, so it's inclusive. So women and men work together, and sometimes women lead activity, men lead activity. So everything is work well. So yes, I think I stop on that. Thank you.
Mr. Ellington, on providing even the context, even closer context to the video that we've all watched much earlier this afternoon, the experiences of remote communities such as those in Mopoe and Santo, of what loss and damage means to them, and their efforts to build resilience in the face of climate change impacts. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Ms. Carolyn Kitione of Shifting the Power Coalition. Carolyn Kitione, this is a pre-recorded version from Ms. Carolyn Kitione. She's the Shifting the Power Coalition Learning Coordinator, and primarily supports the communications, learning, and impact of the Pacific Feminist Alliance for Climate Justice, hosted by the coalition, as well as supporting the 13 women-led organizations of the Shifting Power Coalition to develop and sustain spaces for young women's leadership and engagement in decision-making, including the design of project activities. You can play the video and the sound.
We're not getting the audio through there. You may need to reshare your screen and select the share sound button.
Thank you, Mariah, and thank you to all the panelists. Now, as the Shifting the Power Coalition, we've convened to reaffirm our agency, our abilities, and our innovation to invest in intergenerational approaches to leadership, cross-gender dialogues, and multi-stakeholder engagement. The Shifting the Power Coalition has evolved through the years in its infrastructure. We now have a dedicated regional hub based in Suva, and with the support of our fiscal partner ActionAid Australia, directed resources for the establishment of national hubs to better support the 13 partners of the coalition who are spread across 7 Pacific Island Forum countries. This enables our partners to engage and influence humanitarian action and disaster management that is informed by the lived realities of our communities. Empowering young women to take on leadership roles within their communities and organizations is a priority of the work that we do as the Shifting the Power Coalition. Our feminist funding model emphasizes an intergenerational and intersectional approach and a deep-rooted commitment to gender equality. Our Pacific Feminist Basket acknowledges the unique experiences of diverse women and young women in the face of climate change and environmental degradation. Now, our efforts to resource young women's learning and program design is enabling the co-creation of actions to inform national climate resilience, pandemic recovery, and disaster risk reduction policies by bringing evidence of community priorities such as economic, food, and community security to the official table of meetings in local and national disaster management processes. Now, in the wake of the Hungatonga Hungahapai volcanic eruption and tsunami in January 2022, it was reported that almost 3,000 people and close to 500 households had been displaced. Government estimates put the total number of people affected by ashfall at over 84,000, or at least 84% of the population. Now, 68% of that affected population were women and children under the age of 16. In the days immediately following the volcano eruption, Vanessa Helata, Executive Director of the Talida Project and a partner of the coalition, led a team of young women volunteers to undertake local protection assessments in distributing relief supplies, including face masks and water supplies, to 302 households in 7 communities. Additionally, 196 girls in these communities received dignity kits, and the team also provided psychosocial support for 95 children and adolescent girls who were evacuated. The rapid response action was supported by the Tonga Emergency Appeal organized by ActionAid Australia. Now, as we take stock of the multitude of programs that have been developed to strengthen gender equality commitments across the Pacific, we've seen at equal speed the establishment of young women-led programs. And these programs, often overlooked in mainstream discussions, play a critical role in addressing climate change and disaster management processes. We are demonstrating how coalitions and networks can actually work together to ensure women-led action is not siloed into heteronormative and domestic roles, but really recognized and reaffirmed by the multiple ways in which we are organizing. And this includes collective decision-making on flexible and feminist funding models to support women's leadership across all stages of disaster management, while also being mindful that the funding we provide is a small percentage compared to the targets and commitments that have been required for truly inclusive and transformative action. Our women-led early warning information communications project, known as the Pacific-owned Women-led Early Warning and Resilience Systems, or POWER for short, is a regional platform that honors and integrates traditional, local, and indigenous knowledge into national women-led multi-hazard early warning systems that utilize appropriate and accessible ICTs. Emerging from the impact of devastating cyclones, living with the impact of climate change, responding to multiple hazards including the measles epidemic, COVID-19, volcano eruptions, and tsunamis, the coalition and our allies continue to work together to share knowledge and innovation, learning together how to improve our commitment to disability inclusion and intergenerational leadership for localized collective action that addresses the gaps in meeting goals of equality and inclusion. This means that all financing must have at least 30% dedicated allocations and means to reach women's rights organizations on the ground rather than making do with the already limited resources for gender equality and disability rights. Thank you.
Thank you. That was from Carolyn Kitione, who has highlighted in which diverse Pacific women-led and intergenerational programs are contributing to inform gender-inclusive climate change policy and planning by supporting young women leaders to engage in climate change and related crises in their own organizations, communities, and movements. We have 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes. We still have 10 minutes left for this session. So we have space for questions and answers. And we have two questions that have popped up in the chat. And the first question is more original, but it's not really directed to anyone in particular, but feel free, specific speaker. Will the dumping of nuclear waste water into the ocean affect water security? That's the first question. I'll give the space to Ms. Eleanor Kelly and Mr. Alan Taman for them to really respond to this particular question. It's from an anonymous attendee. Will the dumping of nuclear waste Mr. Alan? Mr. Alan Taman, are you able to hear us?
Hello. Okay. I'll answer the second question for as present women and girls with disability. So, to let me read the question again. So, what measure that we have taken? We are working with Oxfam, who was able to help us provide the a bee farm where we bought bees from farmers, and we have started a small farming which we install in our office area. We started off by putting 2 boxes of bee. Then after they're going to like spray it out or provide more bee, then we have to give each box to a group of women that we have set out to look after the bee. And when the bee grows, will they able to expand from that 2 boxes of bees they have, and then provide more boxes, and then they will able to sell what products are coming out from the bee farm they have provided, and then are able to adapt with some financial challenges in this climate change, and will able to provide for their family or for themselves through this farming. And then we'll continue to build on that farm from whatever they started from, and then building up on it until it grows big, and then they can either some exported it or work with other farmers to provide more farming opportunities for them, and learn from others on how to build a bigger farmer or provide a bigger product for other customers. I think that's from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Not sure whether Mr. Alan Taman is able to hear us, but we'll move on to the next question, noting that we have 6 minutes left to wrap up and to close off this session. The next question is, what measures are being taken to enhance the adaptive capacity of communities and most vulnerable to climate change in the context of water security projects? Perhaps Mr. Alan Taman, you can respond to this if you're able to.
Okay, thank you. The answer is because one of our main goal, the first goal is protect our environment or do some activity to conserve the environment. So we also protect our water source. We protect the water sources like water security. and some of the activity that we do in registering some conservation area, that we have some management plan, including the marine, the sea, and we do some activity like to protect or to do water securities. The main one is we protect the water source.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alan Saman. We now have 5 more minutes. I hope you all hear the introduction quite clearly from our end. So we don't have any further questions.
Hello. Sorry, Maria. I would like to add on for question 1. So, from the disability office, we have a policy that is called development. Solomon Island Inclusive Development Policy, which was launched last year, November, for disability organization and for the government also. In this policy, we have clauses that talk about climate changes and how government or other stakeholders can help us adapt to climate changes and other barriers that persons with disability go through. And I think from this policy, it can help us do networks and other work that what would we say, include climate changes and inclusion of persons with disability in any other networking of climate change or resilience work that has gone on from the Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena Kelly. All right, I hope you can all hear me because if my audio seems to be dropping, that's the notification. But anyways, we'll wrap up for now. There's no other further questions or interventions from our panelists. And just to wrap up this session is that everyone matters and we experience the impacts of climate change differently, and particularly those who are least able to adapt. And we can see that women and marginalized communities and traditional knowledge is still largely unrecognized in the drive to build resilience, particularly at the local level, when policymakers overlook women's knowledge and capacities in climate change action. They deprive the Pacific of basically half of the Pacific of available expertise and resources that would otherwise make a critical contribution. And just to sum up the interventions from a shifting power coalition is that this means that financing, in terms of financing must have at least 30% dedicated allocations. And this means to reach women's rights organizations on the ground rather than making do with already limited resources for gender equality and disability rights. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now bring this session to a close. And with further questions, feel free to contact us on the with Oxfam in the Pacific, and we can make available our contact emails that are showing to you shortly on the chat there from Litia and the PAXIL project. On behalf of the Oxfam in the Pacific PAXIL project and Shifting the Power Coalition, have a great afternoon. Vinaka.